sources, but I don't have any first-hand knowledge of an actual agreement that was cut between anybody.
There's a lot of speculation, of course, about an agreement to allow some human beings, for example, to be abducted, for research in return for, let's say, technology. And John Lear alluded to all that and said that they, in essence, reneged on that aspect of what was supposed to be a deal. Of course, to make you'd never make that kind of thing public. If you had made a deal to shuffle off some of your citizens at random to guys who are going to do God knows what to them, chop them up, cut them up, whatever they do, you could never talk about that ever.
I don't know. I find that kind of hard to believe.
So then John has gone too far for you. Is that right?
I'm sure he's listening.
I'm sure he's listening.
Yeah, John knows he's gone too far for me. John's convinced that there are people living on, or some sort of beings living on Venus and some other local planets.
That's right.
And that drives me crazy.
Does it?
It absolutely does. And a bunch of the things he says.
Well, he's convinced there are artifacts on the moon, gigantic artifacts on the moon and Mars. And others have said that as well. Richard C. Hoagland and others have said there are things on the moon. In fact, you know what? There's speculation that the President of the United States, George Bush, is about to make a speech in which he's going to say the United States is going to go back to the moon. There's going to be a shuttle mission to go back to the moon.
I heard that.
Yeah.
I heard he's supposed to make some sort of announcement.
And we would do it presumably with a shuttle, which is really interesting.
How are you going to get the shuttle?
Don't ask me. I have no idea, but that's what I'm hearing. And actually, I've heard Mr. Hoagland say it's possible. I mean, if they used in other words, once, I think Richard has said, or someone said, once you get into orbit, you're halfway to anywhere.
Well, sure, but if you want to actually get on the moon, it's a different story. The orbiter wasn't designed to do that at all, and in fact, it needs to be replaced with something else.
Yeah, it's getting pretty old.
Yeah.
Still, that's apparently what's going to be announced. I could turn out to be wrong, but I don't know of any other spacecraft that we have in current production that would get us to the moon. Do you?
No, but we do still have a Saturn V sitting there.
A Saturn V could do it.
Well, it was designed to do it with a lunar module and everything. It's sitting there in Florida. Dust the thing off and launch it because they stopped the program right. You
think it'd be all right? Not like old ammunition? I mean, it's pretty old now.
Well, for the most part, it's metal and components. Just sit there with something that works. Mm. Don't do what the United States typically does and reinvent the wheel constantly. Mm. That got us to the moon many times. It worked. Just update it with some modern materials, electronics, and components, and use it since it's there. And stop spending huge amounts of money doing nothing.
What can you imagine our motivation would be for going back to the moon? I mean, we did go, most people believe. Actually, I don't think we even went, but I believe we went, and we got rocks, and we didn't get very many surprises. And so what could we do on the moon today that we didn't do then? That
always seemed more sensible to me to make a small moon base as opposed to a space station.
Oh, really? Why?
Well, for various reasons. First of all, the space station is limited in what it can do. I know a moon base is much more difficult to get to. It doesn't have to be large, but you can at least try and test out some technology on trying to manufacture fuel, do some small refining, see what you can get from the surrounding environment. There have been reports, I think, was it the Cassini? Some radar mapping craft over the past 4 or 5 years detected that there were supposedly large frozen areas of water.
That's correct.
On
yes.
the moon.
Right.
However, they just went over that data again.
And
had another arbiter and now are refuting some of that. So,
yeah.
If you've got water, you've got energy, and you've got the possibility for all kinds of stuff. But
so we're back to a foggy area. There may not be enough water there to manufacture fuel, which would be a necessity.
Right.
So.
Right.
That would make it uninhabitable if they're completely reversing themselves now. It's kind of strange to me. A lot of people believe, Bob, that there are things on the moon, large glass structures, incredible things that were hidden from the world when we went to the moon and have been hidden ever since. And that's the reason they say we haven't gone back. I believe John is one of the people who believes that.
Yeah, he is. I'm not one of the people that believes that.
You are not?
No, absolutely not.
Then why go back, Bob?
Exploration. Why go to the top of the mountain? It's a completely different world now than it was in the 60s. There's a lot more technology, so there's a lot more we can investigate there. And the original reason to go to the moon was never to research the moon. Aside from beating the Russians there, the original intention was only to see the feasibility or to investigate the feasibility of making a small base there and launching a Mars mission from the moon. This was all about going to Mars. The moon was only supposed to be because it would be easier to get there from the moon, less gravity, so on and so forth.
Sure.
And that was just to be looked upon as a potential launching site for a Mars mission. So the interest was never in the moon. I mean, we pretty much knew it was just a rock up there anyway. The interest has always been in Mars, but Mars isn't that easy to get to.
Unless you had a moon base, and that would help.
Well, yeah, that would help. It's a shortcut, and you could store fuel there. There would be, if plans had gone how they should have, maybe we would have already been to Mars. But I think that's the frontier we should look at, is investigating that, or go to Europa. There's plenty of things in our immediate solar system that are, potentially fascinating, and Europa has probably the best chance of life, in our solar system, and even the hardcore skeptics at NASA pretty much agree there's a good chance there's something in the oceans there. So,
but Bob, if we've got technology that can manipulate gravity, and damn, it was back in the early 90s when you knew that we had that. Here we are launching, whether it's a Saturn V or a shuttle or however we get back to the moon, and for what reason I'm not sure about, but whatever. We're using ancient buggy-like technology compared to what exists now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I don't care what spacecraft they've come up with. In my eyes, they still look like fireworks. And they've proven themselves to be that on occasion.
Yes.
But it's archaic technology, and we do have something that operates differently. However, it has limited fuel, a limited lifespan, and we don't want to lose it. So as far as I knew at the time, we couldn't even come close to duplicating even the most basic parts of the device. So what are you left with? You're left with your own archaic method of transportation to other planets, and you can only investigate what's going on around you.
So then, Bob, we have been unable to decipher the manner in which, or duplicate the manner in which gravity is manipulated by the devices on the craft that you saw. Obviously, we've failed, or what? In other words, otherwise we'd be using this technology, so we failed?
Well, quite possibly.